Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. जय गौर चंद्र की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, गौर भक्त वृंद की जय, जय निताई गौर प्रेमानंदे। हरे कृष्णा। ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी निति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे, विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद, गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Hare Krishna. So if you can see, I have a bright smile on my face. Mostly it is because I'm happy to be amongst friends, all of you. And partly because I did have my Ekadashi Prashad. Our founder Acharya, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada, would always have very encouraging answers to questions that his disciples or well-wishers or guests would ask of him. So once Srila Prabhupada was asked, is the day of Ekadashi auspicious or inauspicious? Because we hear that on Ekadashi, if you eat that which you're not supposed to eat, you're not, I would not even take the name because it brings back impressions, you know. You're not supposed to eat few things. And if you eat that, then you're eating sin. Have you heard that before? Yes. You've not heard that before? Please, if you've not heard that before, please raise your hands. Okay. So yeah, there are some scriptural injunctions like that, that on Ekadashi, if we eat grains, then the sum total of all sinful reactions being in the grains is received by the person who eats those grains. So there are injunctions like that. So does it mean that Ekadashi is inauspicious? Or is it auspicious? Because on the day of Ekadashi, if you engage in devotional practices, then you get a lot of extra mercy. So Srila Prabhupada said, Ekadashi is always auspicious. So then there was this question in the minds of devotees that, does it mean fasting is auspicious? So Prabhupada said, maybe he read their minds, maybe he just continued on with his answer. So he elaborated that because Ekadashi is a day of feasting. So all right, I think we have taken that quite literally. And why should we change any customs if people are happy, right? If having a good feast makes everyone happy, then I'm also with you, go for it. In the ancient land of Vidisha, Vidisha is a city that has been mentioned a lot in the literatures that we call as the Puranas. Where is Vidisha? Vidisha is close, or it is on the banks of the river Narmada, central India. In Asia, India, the country India in Asia. So central India, we have this ancient town of Vidisha. It's still called Vidisha in today's times. It used to be a very prosperous kingdom. in the old days of kings, the kingdom of Vidisha was very, very prosperous. It attracted a lot of people, and especially those with spiritual inclinations would come to the city of Vidisha because the city would offer them a lot of facilities. They would be respected a lot. They would be given place, facilities for their spiritual practices. So a lot of spiritual tourists would come to Vidisha. Seekers would come to Vidisha. Experienced practitioners, spiritual practitioners would come to Vidisha. So the king of Vidisha had to be very, very fluent in various subject matters. The king of Vidisha had to be really a very good king. The administrator of such a kingdom has to be very knowledgeable, powerful, capable. So, many, many ages ago, long time ago, there was a king of Vidisha of the name Rukmangada. What was the name? Rukmangada. Okay? Just like we have Rukmini, similar sounding name, Rukmangada. All right? Very, very devout and powerful king. Devout in his spiritual practices. His wife was also a devout lady. Very knowledgeable too. Her name was Sandhyavali. Do you like these names? If you like these names, let us say Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. I'm not sure if you like those names, but those are the names. Rukmangada and Sandhyavali. They had one son. They named their son Dharmangada. Okay? The king had special affection, attraction, interest in Ekadashi. He used to love Ekadashi. And he proclaimed throughout his kingdom that all of his subjects had to follow Ekadashi every fortnight. So all of his subjects were also very good at following the rules and norms of Ekadashi, including children, old people, everyone. The king and the queen would set the example themselves. Like every other day, they would wake up early in the morning, do their religious duties, their sadhana, then take care of their social duties, then interact with teachers and seekers, interact with people who had any complaints or needs, their subjects. On the day of Ekadashi, they would have a lot of kirtan. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So Dharmangada, the son, you could say was fortunate enough to have this culture, or you could say did not have any other option. Either ways, Dharmangada grew up doing Ekadashi every fortnight. In fact, this was the main festival of the kingdom. Can you imagine a kingdom where the main festival is Ekadashi? Try and imagine. It would be helpful. So the king ruled for many, many years. Yes, sorry.
Can you give a brief overview of Ekadashi? What it is?
Oh, all right. So Ekadashi, thank you for bringing up that point. So Ekadashi is the 11th day of the waxing or the waning moon. That 15-day period, the fortnight, the 11th day is called as Ekadashi, according to the traditional Vedic calendar. Yes? Everyone knows, if you've heard the term Dasha, Das, Daha, 10. 10. So Ekadash means 11. 1 added to 10. All right? So it is also called as Gyaras, especially if you go to Gujarat, Saurashtra, Kutch, Gyaras, Ekadashi. What is so great about the Ekadashi? It is the time where this moon is just entering the phase where the moon is going to have a lot of influence on the element, water or fluids in its jurisdiction, to the extent where the moon can exert its influence, especially on the earthly planet. So just as we are forewarned that during the days of the high tides and the low tides, please be a little extra careful when you're by the seashore. So similarly, the scriptures tell us that, and the days of the high tides and the low tides are these particular days. From the 10th day to the 15th day, like that, of the waning and waxing phase of the moon. If I know my geography and tidal geography well, then this is how it is. So 70% science tells us, that is what science tells us, right? 70%? Is it correct? Of our constitution, bodily constitution is made up of fluids. 70%, 72, 75%. Yeah. Just imagine, we are very fluidy. Doesn't feel like that, right? So the remaining earth element must be so powerful to hold all that fluid. Blame it on gravity. So this also gets affected by the influence of the moon. So certain people who did some research on this, they said that during this phase, where the moon exerts special influence on fluids, especially on the earthly planet, you have a lot of agitation in the mind. Every human being becomes very much agitated mentally. Basically, it means that you have a lot of thoughts coming to you. It's just the circulation. There's more blood circulation, your brain is more active, so obviously the circulation is faster. That's what tides are all about. More energy. So humans have to use their intelligence to channelize their thought processes. Because right now, if I don't channelize what is going on in my mind, there could be pralay here. Because actually I haven't eaten. So there's hunger. So I have to channelize it. Om Shanti Shanti. Yeah. So it teaches us, just as we have been warned or we have been told to be a little careful on these days. So the scriptures tell us that we have to be a little careful from the 11th day onwards. And how do we do that? Fast. As soon as you fast, it takes you 4 days to recover. It's true. On the 4th day, you're like, yeah, I feel whole again. By the time it's a full moon day or the new moon day, and you're good. So the ancients, the ancestors, our ancestors, they did have some intelligence. Let us accept it. So that is Ekadashi. Very briefly, that is Ekadashi. There's a lot more to that, but this is Ekadashi. Now, also king will come back to Vidisha. So the king and his son grew up knowing that every Ekadashi, maybe it could be the waxing phase or the waning phase, Krishna Paksha, Shukla Paksha. We fast and we do a lot of kirtan and bhajan. When the king reached 50 years of age, the king said, many, many years later, a sadhu is going to come and he's going to go all over the world. And he's going to teach people that at 50 years of age, you should retire slowly. At least think about it. Yes, so in ISKCON, we think about retirement after 50 because the sadhu is Srila Prabhupada. So the king said that I'm past 50, so I have to retire. So his son was grown up. He was quite capable. He sought feedback from his subjects. The subjects are like, yes, yes, we want Dharmangada to be our king. So the king said, all right, you accept the throne. I will go into the forest. So in those days, the forest would generally be towards the north in India. You have to travel to the Himalayas. So he traveled to the Himalayas. He took permission from his wife, Sandhyavali. He said that, dear wife, you have been my partner on this journey and I owe so much to you. Now I have to go alone. The rest of the journey I have to be by myself. So I seek your permission and blessings. And she said yes. She was happy to give permission. I'm not making this up. This is actually there. The story that I'm quoting is from the Narada Purana. All right? That's a reference. So he actually took her permission and she did say that, yes, this is the way of a good life. This is what should be done. So please. So he traveled to the north. He went across vast territories through smaller forests and kingdoms and crossed rivers and reached the Himalayas, the mountains. And in the mountains, he met a sage. The sage's name was Vamadev. Y'all are still with me?
Yes.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna. Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. All right. So Vamadev said, welcome, O king. The king was like, oh, did you see the notice on WhatsApp that I was coming? How did you know? Vamadev said that pigeons, they fly. No, we have news travels. So we knew that you were coming to the north and I've heard so much about you. So I was hopeful that you would come to my hermitage. Please stay here for some time. If this place is, you feel comfortable here, then practice your austerities here. Maybe Vamadev had an ulterior motive too. If a famous person attains siddhi there, and you know what happens? You know what happens, right? Or at least the next 10 generations, people would come to that place. Yeah. Spiritual economy too. You get a lot of spiritual credits. Because Siddha place is a Siddha place. It's a place of perfection. So the vibration there in the atmosphere, the stones, everything, those vibrations are very, very helpful. Yeah. So He decided to stay there for some time, and then his inner calling was that he traveled further into the Himalayas, higher up into the mountains. So he went on into the higher peaks, and the forest became denser and denser and denser, less habitation. And there he was sitting under a tree, very close to a lake, and he was meditating on his life's journey. And he was like, my dear Lord, you're so merciful, you're so kind. And then he sees a young damsel there. And she was the most gloriously beautiful damsel that the king had ever seen. She looked at the king. She said, I've fallen in love with you. The king said, I have not as yet. I could too. So the king was already on the path of falling in love. Forests can also have distractions, you know. So retirement is not all just austerities, there are distractions there too. All right. How many of us practice some form of sadhana or some spiritual practice every single day? Please raise your hands. Every single day. Yeah. I would encourage the others also to try and just give it a try. Every single day, let us have some time for some spiritual upliftment. Somewhere or the other, we are convinced that we are all a part of us, if not completely us, at least a part of us is spiritual. If you ask me, then our teacher, Srila Prabhupada, he showed us through his teachings and convinced us that actually we are completely spiritual and we are having a human existence. But let us say some of you can just accept that there is some part of us that is spiritual. Then it behooves that we have some spiritual practices every single day, isn't it? Because a part of us feels hungry, then every single day we eat. A part of us feels thirsty, then every single day we drink. A part of us feels that we need entertainment, then we have some entertainment every day. Similarly, since a part of us is spiritual, we should have some spiritual engagement every single day. Are you with me?
Yes.
Do you agree? So can I see a show of hands if everyone agrees? That's nice. Hare Krishna. So do we agree to have some spiritual practice every single day? Well, I don't want to force you. For those of you who don't have a spiritual practice for every single day, there's a very simple process. Every single day for some time, let's say at the most 30 minutes is enough. 30 minutes a day. 30 minutes a day is good enough. Chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. We could do that, right? Everyone, we could do that. Everyone agrees? Show of hands. Anyone who does not agree, show of hands. So since everyone agrees and this is a spiritual place and we say the lordships are, so someone is noticing. Sorry, we trapped you. So anyways, 30 minutes a day is all that we could spend with some spiritual practices. If you do not have any particular inclination, then you could chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Yes? So we have spiritual practices. Some of us, we regularly have spiritual practices. I would encourage you to please pay attention to what I just said. Retirement could also have distractions. So every day when we finish our spiritual practices and we retire from that daily spiritual practice for the day, please understand that there could be distractions too. Yeah. So we just have to be a little awake and stay away from distractions, because distractions just waste our time and energy. So we should use our time and energy judiciously. Yes. So the king, he said, I could. You're such a lovely lady. Who are you? She said, I'm a young lady. Looking at me, do you need any more data? I am who I am. The king is like, all right, what can I do for you? She said, I'm looking for a husband. I think you could be the perfect husband for me. You're pakka husband material. That is an Indian phraseology. King said, I was married. I had a good married life. Now, I have taken retirement from married life. I was convinced that I would like to stay retired, but now I feel young again. I feel I could marry you. The girl said, all right, I'm ready to marry you. I have certain conditions. Distractions always come with conditions. Small straw. Conditions apply. The king said, what are your conditions? She said, I should be the chief queen. He had already told her that she is the queen. So you should always listen to me. Please never say no to whatever I ask for. The king said, all right, done. So they got married. They took the blessings of all the sages there. And they went back to the kingdom. The king sent message to his son, Dharmangada, I'm coming back with a new queen. The son was very happy that my father is coming back. And I'll have the shelter of my father once again. Nice bond. He goes to his mother, Sandhyavati, and he says, oh mother, father is coming back. And he has a new queen. And now we must serve her because she is coming back with her father. It seems that it is because of her that I have the father. I have my father back. You have your husband back, and the kingdom has its king back. My story up till now. Yeah, now it's turning a little interesting, isn't it? Maybe I could have cut short the introductory part. So the king comes back. The queen is loved by all the subjects. Comes the day of Ekadashi. Everyone is fasting. The queen tells the king, I desired not to fast. It breaks the king's heart because Ekadashi was very dear to him. It was the major festival of his kingdom. He said, all right. She said, I desire that you should also not fast. I desire that none of the people in the kingdom should fast. King said, that's sacrilege. That's not possible. You could, everything that you asked for, I agreed to. But this, it would not be possible for me to agree. Somewhere deep within us, all of us, we know that we are good people, aren't we? Somewhere deep within us, there's always goodness, isn't it? There's always light, isn't it? There are moments of darkness, there are moments of weakness. But every one of us can vouch that even in those moments of weaknesses that we have, we know what is good. We may be weak not to act on it, but we know what is good because essentially we have goodness within us. Do you know where it comes from? We all know where it comes from. You're all part and parcels of the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord is all good. So we have goodness. And when push comes to shove, it is in those moments, life-turning moments, we realize that we should be on the side of the good. And that is where we get the strength to overcome our weaknesses. You can always have a life coach. Trending nowadays, isn't it? The best life coach is you yourself. And hence, that life coach that can teach you that you are your own life coach is a good teacher. You know, Prabhupada would always say, I'm simply a postal peon. I just offer that which belongs to you. It is yours. It's not mine. That is what a spiritual master does. Hare Krishna. Little boring. Sorry for that. So let us come back. The king said, no, not possible. The queen realized that, oh, oops. Read carefully. She said, let me call all the intellectual people in the kingdom. Those who know the scriptures. If they say that it is not necessary that everyone fast, it is not necessary that the king fast on Ekadashi, would you accept it? He said, all right, because he was convinced that that is not possible. She had the charm to bribe these intellectual people in the kingdom who had given their lives for Ekadashi. She was charming enough to convince them. She bribed them. They're like, yes, yes, queen. We like your bribe. Good association is good. But there are moments in life when good association is rare, like a diamond. Be very, very intelligent to keep that rare diamond of good association somewhere safe in your lives. Always. So they came up to the king and they said, there's no need for the king to fast. There's no need for young people. There's no need for children to fast. There's no need for old people to fast on Ekadashis. There's no need for wives who still have their husbands who are alive to fast. There's no need for husbands who have still their wives alive to fast. So who could be fasting? Only widowers and widows. Now those who grew up in India, this sound familiar? Maybe not, because in today's times, this is not popular, but about the previous century, if somebody would do Ekadashi, they were like, oh, are you a widow or a widower? Why are you fasting? When the king heard from all the intellectual people, he said, what nonsense. This is not true. I will not accept what your diktat. I will not accept your conclusions because this is not what the scriptures say. So the queen now, she becomes angry. She turns her back to the king and goes to her anger chambers. I will not talk to you. Dharmangada, the son, sees this fight between his father and his queen. He goes to his mother, Sandhyavali, and says, you're the only one who can resolve this. Please go and talk some sense to the young queen. So Sandhyavali goes to the young queen and she says, please, this is a custom of this kingdom. Understand. This is your husband, the king. This is practically his life, Ekadashi. So the young queen relents and she says, all right, I will let everyone fast, but I have a condition. I want you to sacrifice your son. You have to offer your son's life as a sacrifice. And the king has to personally chop off his head. Now is the story interesting? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama. She says, no problem. if that is what convinces you, if that is what makes you relent, I will go and convince the king. She goes to the king. The king would not hear of it. He said, forget him being the son. He is the king. He could have easily rejected my claim. He offered it to me. Where would you find such a good human being? It's not just a son, he's a good human being, he's a good king, he's loved by all. And he's also a devotee of the Lord. The queen told him, what is the duty of a king? You are the king. It is to see that all the subjects can follow the path of religiosity. And if you need to sacrifice, and there's no other way, then one must sacrifice. So the king could understand that his wife was speaking sense. So he agrees.
It must be different wife or same wife.
Sandhyavati. His ex-wife, his wife, before retirement. Sandhyavati was speaking. What she was speaking made sense. So there's this arrangement. The son was so happy that he could resolve this issue. I mean, strange place, strange kingdom, isn't it? Little too dark at this point of time, the story, isn't it? The king, the priests were there, the king took the sword in his hand, he was ready to chop off the head. Lo and behold, something happened. Should I stop?
No, no, not that good.
Lo and behold, darshan closed. I'm
You should have stopped before. Now it's just.
so sorry.
We have 15 minutes for
Hare Krishna.
We have 15 minutes leave.
Okay. So, stop. There was a voice. They looked around. The young queen had disappeared. In her place was a celestial lady. And Yamaraj himself had appeared. He said, stop. O king, this was a test. Happy ending, isn't it? A test? What was a test about? He said, well, since the time you became king and people have been following Ekadashi, I have nothing to do except doodle at my workplace. Yamaraj has got an important function. He's the god of justice. So at the end of life, according to Vedic traditions, people have to answer to Yamaraj. So Yamaraj, he was happy that people were getting benefited. However, his concern was, is this too true? Is this king the real thing? Because if you invest so much in a population and then cheat them, the devastation is severe. So Yamaraj, being the god of justice, was concerned. So he is wondering about it, and who visits him? Exactly, Narad Muni visits him. He says, don't worry, Yamaraj-ji. Let us go to Brahma, Lord Brahmaji. He'll have some solution for your concern. So they visit Brahmaji. Brahmaji is like, since you have brought up this concern, it is important. Whereas in Brahmalok, all of us are convinced that this king is the real thing. And his glories have spread all over the universe. So, what should we do? Brahmaji says, Yamraji, let us go into my private chambers. Soundproof. Just you and me. And when they're just the two of them, Brahmaji says, top secret. Brahmaji connects on the hotline to the Supreme Lord. Says, my dear Lord, this is the plan. That is all he says. This is the plan. Lord Hari understands what is the plan. Tine Brahma Hridaya Adi Kave. Remember the verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam. There's heart-to-heart connection. The Lord says, Tathastu, so be it. So Brahmaji manifests a celestial lady. Her name is Mohini, not the Mohini incarnation. She is Mohini. Mohini means who can create an illusion, a very charming illusion. She says, I understand what is my duty. And she comes down to the Himalayan ranges as a young damsel. So this was the test. And the concern of Yamraji was addressed. Yamraji says, I'm perfectly satisfied. The reason I was chosen to be Yamaraj is because the Supreme Lord trusted me to properly encourage living entities to understand their shortcomings through either punishments or through blessings. The living entities could be encouraged to perfect their lives as spiritual beings. To once again remember that each one of us is perfectly happy, having loving reciprocations of service with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Technically, it is called as bhakti, devotional service. Perfectly satisfies every individual being, keeps every individual being happy. Savai pumsam varo dharmo yato bhaktir adrukshya. Ahaitukya pratiyata. Ye atma suprasidati. Suprasidati keeps him happy always. So this is my position, said Yamaraj. People may have misconceptions about my role, but I really enjoy, I really feel happy when I don't have to punish anyone. And therefore, when I see the kingdom of Vidisha, everyone so sincerely practicing Ekadashi, it makes me very happy. And therefore, this is my prayer to all of you devotees at ISKCON temple in Baltimore. This is Yamraji's words. That please practice Ekadashi sincerely by feasting on the holy names of Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. Today, the topic was, I eat what I see versus I see what I eat. So let me try and at least do justice to that topic. Let me at least speak on it for 2 minutes. Sometimes in a practice, whatever practices we may have. In the external world, what we, as practitioners sometimes called as the material world, or in the world of spiritual practices, what we call as a devotional world, wherever our practices are. There is always the option available to each one of us to feel proud of our practices. There's always an option. There's no one like I am. So devotee was giving a wonderful realization, and I would like to repeat that. This is from some time ago. Please don't ask me how long ago, but some time ago. I would like to keep it as unaccountable as possible. So some time ago, a long time ago, in a particular hermitage, people would do Nirjala Ekadashi. Nirjal means total fast for the entire day, not eat, not drink, no eating, no drinking, and obviously no sleeping too. There are times that we have seen people since the advent of AC rooms. There are times that people do Nirjala Ekadashi and they're lying in the AC rooms in meditation, deep meditation of sleep. The AC room takes care of all their needs. Anyways, so they would do Nirjala Ekadashi, but not all. Slowly people found it difficult. So a newcomer who had come to the ashram about 4 or 5 years ago would be doing Nirjala Ekadashi. And on Ekadashi, you chant the holy names of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So this new devotee would be chanting, but he would specially make it a point to chant loudly in front of all the people at lunchtime, whenever they were eating at any other time. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. So those who were taking prasad, some of them, they felt inspired. Oh, this devotee is so kind, reminding us that we should not try to enjoy the senses. And there were others who would think that, oh, this devotee is so proud. Like, look at me, I'm fasting and still chanting, and you're simply eating. So two ways that could go, right? Correct? Yeah. And then there was another incident where a sage, a renounced sage of many years of renunciation, like many decades of renunciation, was doing ecstatic kirtan, like dancing and trying to, like, practically was jumping up and touching the sky. I mean, obviously I'm exaggerating, but why not? So was so enthusiastically jumping and dancing and doing kirtan for a couple of hours. Visiting sage, renunciate. So after the kirtan was done, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. After the kirtan was done, the president of that hermitage, the Mathadhish, very kind, old spiritual practitioner, a sage by himself, invited him and said, please take some prasad. And with a very gentle, soft and feeble voice that could only be heard by the Mathadhish, by the temple president, the renunciate told him that for decades now, I have been doing Nirjala Ekadashi. I don't eat or drink anything on Ekadashi. Oh, and still you are dancing so enthusiastically. You're doing so much kirtan. I mean, you must be completely dehydrated by now. You lost so much of fluids, perspiring. You're very kind, said the renunciate. Are you sure? Wouldn't you take some prasad at our humble hermitage? The renunciate said, actually, if you, who are a very senior practitioner, if it is your desire that I have prasad, even though it has been my practice for decades now, I will accept prasad. The Mathadish was so moved. He said, this is practical Vaishnavism. This is what is the essence of spiritual practices. This is what it means to serve. And he would go on for years telling this story. He said, no. Obviously, he did not push him to take prasad. He said, no. Just by yours accepting my invitation, you have pleased me. So coming back to my topic, I eat what I see. How do I see things? Because in Srila Prabhupada's words, he said that one way to see things is to see through your eyes. Another way to see things is to see through your ears. So there are various ways that the senses and their activities can be performed. So eating and seeing, I eat what I see, could be that I'm in knowledge and therefore I eat in knowledge. Or I'm an illusion and I could eat in illusion because I eat what I see. Just as in the first story, the people took that person's statement to be either encouragement or expression of that person's pride. However, I see what I eat. Sight always has to be knowledge because you cannot see that which you have no knowledge about. And the Vedas speak a lot about this. It's something called as the Shakha Chandra Nyaya. See the moon, see the moon, see the moon. I don't see. Oh, can you see the branch of the tree? Right above that branch. You see that white object? Ah, now I see the moon. So weren't you seeing that object before? I was, but I did not know that was a moon. So if I see, that means I have knowledge. Because I cannot see without knowledge. I'm still blind to whatever can be seen if I do not have knowledge about it. So I see what I eat basically means we have to use the facility that we have in the human form of life to always work in knowledge. Always know the pros and cons, the benefits and that which is detrimental. And accept that which is beneficial and say bye-bye to that which is detrimental. Sorry. Unsubscribe from all that is detrimental and subscribe to all that is beneficial. So Prabhupada would say, feasting. Ekadashi is the day of feasting because Ekadashi gives us an opportunity which is not available on any other days, except a few days that we call as days of the Lord's appearance or disappearance. Ekadashi comes every fortnight. Every fortnight. To do what? To feast. Feast on what? That which we should be seeing, that we should have knowledge about. And real knowledge is when you try and be happy. having loving reciprocation of service with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Any questions or comments? Do we have time for that?
Yeah, we can do one.
One question or comment. Any corrections would also be. Yes.
Thank you very much for the wonderful interview. You shared about Ekadashi, mother of devotion, and some wonderful things Ekadashi can bring in our lives in terms of auspiciousness. In Puri Dham, the residents of Puri, they do not follow Ekadashi, they eat drinks. That is permissible. So, can you elaborate a little bit to enhance our knowledge as to, there's an exception being to the rule, and how, we as Vaishnavas perceive that, in respecting what other acharyas have stated in the light of that. Thank you.
Thank you for that question. Is that a mandatory question, or can I say pass? You can say pass? All right, so I pass. All right, would anyone want to answer? Maybe we can take it offline. All right. We are not residents of Puri Dham, so we are residents of Baltimore Dham. Here the rule applies, I guess.
And we follow Ekadashi.
We follow Ekadashi, yes. The rule applies and we follow Ekadashi.
What was Yamaraj's concern? I don't know.
Yamaraj's concern was that, is it too good to be true? Everyone following Ekadashi.
Oh.
Yamaraj has spent a lot of time in this material world. He's seen a lot of things. So that was his concern. All right. Mataji, there had her hand raised. She had a hand. हाँ बिल्कुल आप हिंदी में बोलिए.
ज्ञानेंद्रिय पर 11वां मन एक ही दिशा में जाए उससे
बिल्कुल हो सकता है, बिल्कुल. हाँ जी.
तो उसी दिशा को एक ही दिशा में सभी 11 चीजों को एक दिशा में एकत्रित करना है और उसी ओर जाना.
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल सही बात कहा आपने, धन्यवाद. So she was basically saying that since Ekadashi means the 11th day, so the number 11 could also signify the 11 tools that we have to function in this material world. Knowledge acquiring senses, working senses, and the mind. So according to Vedic scriptures, there are 5 knowledge acquiring senses called as the 5 Gyanendriyas, 5 working senses called as the 5 Karmendriyas, and the mind. So the sum total of this is 11. So we use all of this 11. We unite them and focus all of these 11 tools towards one goal, which is service, devotional service. Practice to chanting the holy names. Hence, on Ekadashi, it is called as Ekadashi, the 11th day, being important in relationship to those 11 tools that every human has. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Share with Prabhu's question.
Yeah,
Yes, please. You can do it after.
Offline, you can do it.
Offline. Yeah,
Yeah.
after this.
Thank you, Prabhuji. I think it's 6:20. We want to make sure everybody's 11 senses not focus on Prashadam. So we'll let everybody calm down. But Prabhuji, thank you so much.